Today, we're going to start working on conducting so that you can conduct and communicate with your hands what beat you're on, so that when you do your rhythms, you can eventually do both together. And your conducting chart works like this. I'm doing this from this perspective so it looks the same for you. When you conduct, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And loosely speaking, you're going to come down to 1 like this. You're going to go to 2 like that. You're going to go to 3 like that. And 4 like that. Okay? Now, the tricky thing about this is not 1 and then 2, 3, and 4, but after you hit 1, where do you go next before you go to 2? And generally speaking, we try and hit the beat and then rebound a little bit away from the next beat. Because if I go like this, 1, and I immediately go there, then I'm already at 2 and I have no way to go there. So since I'm going there next, I'll go 1. You saw I rebound kind of away from 2. 1, 2. And since I'm going to 3 next, I rebound away from 3. Since I'm going to 4, as I go here, I go away from 4. And then like that, away from 1. Okay? So you'll see these patterns, and they look a little bit like squiggly lines. So you might see something that looks more like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? But really, what we're doing is we're going 1, rebound away, come over to 2, keep going, come over to 3, keep going, loop around, come down to 4, and then loop back up away from the direction you're going to 1. In truth, we almost always start our beating pattern 1 beat previous to where we're headed to. So if you're going to start on 1, you don't start here. You start on 4 and you go 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's try that together. Now I'm going to put on a metronome, and it will go a little slow to begin with. And we're just going to try this. Most people are supposed to conduct with their right hand. It's just a convention. I'm left-handed. I still conduct with my right hand. Eventually, you use your left hand to emphasize or cue entrances or specific things in the movie. So what we're going to try and avoid you doing right now is doing 2 hands together like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want that. Just take your right hand, and if you're choral conducting, generally your hand is like this. And if you're instrumental conducting, you probably have a baton like this. I'm using a pencil. And depending on what you're doing in choral conducting, you might use these fingers too, and you'll see stuff like this. For right now, just stick your first finger out. It's sort of a substitute between the two. You don't have to have a baton, and you don't have to do this, but we will eventually, just so you can make sure you're doing this right. Okay? So we're going to go, since we're going to go to 1, we have to bounce 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Bounce away from the note that you're going to next, or the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Now, can I just go noodly like this? I guess you could, but then you can't see where the beat is, right? So we try and do a little tiny bit of a bounce. We go 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Where does the bounce come from? Kind of the wrist, a little bit, not the whole arm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Obviously, if this was very legato, we would minimize that bounce, right? And if this was, you know, something with a little bit of a kick to the beat, you'd be doing more of that, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So your rebound would be more articulated. And if you ever have a big beat coming up, you emphasize the beat before. So if I wanted a big beat 1, I'd be like 4, 1. Oops, bumped the camera, sorry. Like that, okay? What you need to do is stop the video and practice a little bit. Because the next step will be for us to take a look at your rhythms in chapter 1. And I'm going to put it down here. It's far enough for me to see. You're going to want yours close enough because you won't be able to see my hand and the textbook in the frame of the picture or the camera. So have your textbook nearby. I'll put this down here like this. And to begin with, maybe you just follow along. You can always rewind this. But eventually you're going to want to do all these things. And I am going to turn up the metronome a little bit. So maybe just practice and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then eventually, after you're comfortable with that, I'm going to do rhythm. This is page 8, number 1. And you just say ta for the durations. Ta, 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 and off. Number 2, here we go. Oh, notice that you can hear my breath and I'm doing 4 beforehand. So 1, 2, ta, 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 and off on beat 1. This is number 3. Here we go. You'll know that I'm starting because this will be my 4 and then there'll be the 1. So conducting, actually, you don't have to count all those numbers beforehand. You just go ta, 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 off. Okay, those are the first 3. Okay, rhythms 4 through, you can't see up here, 5 and 6 are 2-part rhythms. If you have a keyboard, it's best to do it on a keyboard because it really shows duration as opposed to just hitting a note and doing nothing. But basically the lower line here is going to be your left hand and the upper line is going to be your right hand. And what to say about this? So I'm going to play it at the keyboard. I'm going to use middle C and or C4 and G4 just because it's taking me all the way off camera right here to go to the octave that it's written in. Doesn't matter, but those are those 2 notes. If you don't have a piano, just tap, but you have to imagine that you have duration. So don't, like for instance, this first one right here, it'd be, it's not. Like you don't, you know, hold your hands down for the duration, I guess, okay? And how would I do this to begin with? If you have great left and right hand coordination, you can just put on a metronome and start to go. But if you're going like, I've never done this before and it really messes me up, you take it out of time. So I'll take you through all those steps. To begin with, I would just take this out of time. I would say like, okay, first time I hit these together and holding this guy down, I hit that again. This is number 4 on page 8. And then I hit them together again, and this one gets held down, and this one goes again. And it's that slow, and it's easy enough to think about it. And then they go together, this one twice more while this one holds down, and then together, and then I'm on measure 5, together, 2 quick notes and a long note, and then together, and 2 quick notes and a long note, and then together, hold for a duration, together, hold for a duration, and together, hold for a duration. And you just, I know that's not perfect rhythm, I know that's not in time, but we're simply getting your hands used to working independent from each other. So, you know, if you're a trumpet player like me, or, you know, I don't know, somebody that's used to working an instrument that really has a coordinated right, left hand, or just one hand, you know, trombone, that kind of thing. You're used to making your mouth and one hand work at the same time, or 2 hands work at the same time. But pianists, and to a certain degree guitarists, although there is a sort of one-to-one correlation, but especially keyboardists, learn to do something completely rhythmically independent with one hand and then the other, okay? That's what I do on this. And then I would start to try and get it, you know, in tempo. So I'd be like 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after I felt good about that, and there may be some practice between those, then I put a metronome on. You can start slower than that, but you know, as a demonstration. That's it. And let's do the other ones as a demonstration. So I'm going to be looking up there, but I want you to see my hands down there, okay? So I'll leave this down here, but I'm going to do number 5 right now. And I'll just do these as reference for you so you can practice. But it's the practice of the easier parts that you can do. If you struggle to put all these together, then you need to go back and break it down and make it slower, or make it completely out of time to get that right. Here's number 5. And here's number 6. Okay. And that's how you do rhythms for this. Now, I'm going to be honest, this is not enough rhythm practice for you to get proficient in rhythms. The way that works is by, you know, playing an instrument or singing and reading and practicing and learning literature almost every day of your life. And you get far more experience out of the major repetitions of practicing every day, looking at the notation. But these are minimal trainings so that you can say, I can conduct and keep a beat and say some timings, and I can do 2-part durations. And you know, they get more difficult as we go on through the book, so this is where we start. Even if these are easy and you can one-shot them, know that your assignment eventually will be to do an exercise 3 times in a row without a mistake. So it speaks to consistency. So even if you're like, I got this, it's not hard, you know, slow it down and make sure that you can do it, you know, with repetitions and things like that. So it's not just like boy, I hope I get lucky and don't make a mistake. I'll just do a video enough times to get that one. Okay, you'll be doing with a metronome, you'll be conducting and saying, and then for these 2-hander ones, you'll be doing multiple takes.